numbers at that time just completely by writing their ad valorem, which is the base tax rate of 1% roughly, actually reduced everybody's taxes at the same time. So now, Prop 13 normally protects people from rising tax rates. So if you bought a home after the Great Recession, then you shouldn't be seeing high increases, very, very large increases in your tax bills. But if you bought prior to, home values have been going back up, and as a result, the assessor is able to go ahead and increase the assessed value for those homes that were purchased with higher initial assessed value. So their property taxes may be going up at the same time. That's the best explanation I can possibly provide. This city actually reduced the tax rates for many neighborhoods in our city by refunding the Melrose tax rates. I can tell you there was one neighborhood whose annual tax bill dropped by as much as $1,200 per month. I know Albert Hill, for instance, saw their tax rates, their Melrose rate, drop by $750 per year. And that's not to say that the rates can't go back up, especially for those homes that were purchased for $500,000 or $600,000. Home prices go back up, those assessed values will go back up because the Prop 13 protection only starts from the date that you actually bought the house, and that can go up a percentage every year. So that's my best explanation without knowing more, and I'm leaning heavily on my real estate experience to go ahead and be able to answer that question. But I hope that satisfies everyone. Ursula writes, talking about what's the holdup, any news on Castle and Cook or any plans for any new shopping centers near Albert Hill? Yes. Okay, so again, I've been doing a lot of talking. Ramon?
I'll take that one. So
what's the holdup with Castle?
What we know from speaking with Castle and Cook in several meetings, that they're looking into obviously marketing their properties, bringing in guest builders. As far as this question is concerned, in specific on a shopping center, nothing came in the ways of a shopping center specifically. But what we know from speaking with them is that they've been actively marketing, their maps and their parcels to guest builders to go ahead and build all kind of development as far as commercial and residential as well.
That's good information. I can tell you. That again, in the commercial markets right now, big box retailers having a tough time right now, and I think that the timing for that construction is going to be market driven, and largely when you're looking at development, especially retail development, the focus has largely been on things that you can't duplicate by going online for. So, like clothing stores, you're going to have a hard time attracting clothing stores these days. But entertainment or massage or restaurants or anything that involves you walking in the front door and not being able to duplicate that experience anywhere else, those are the things that you're going to go ahead and see more of. Fitness studios and even tattoo parlors and whatnot. You can't get a tattoo online, right? So not yet anyways. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody working on that. Point is that is the challenge. A grocery store, I think, would work awful well over in the retail complex that's being planned. And that retail complex would be planned as Lake Street runs north. You got Nichols Road that runs west and ends at Lake Street. Now, Nichols Road will eventually extend through Lake Street, and that'll be a four-way intersection, excuse me. And then you'll have the retail center that's on the northwest corner of that intersection. I've also heard other rumors. Some of them are rumors, but they sound like there's some folks that are interested, heavily interested, especially in the housing portion of it. That could help kick things off because obviously if there's a little bit more housing over on that side of things, that makes the retail component even more attractive because you need services to go ahead and feed those houses. And so right now it's all good things. We're in a strange time period for the market and the economy. There's a lot of people who don't know what's going to happen next, and when there's indecisiveness in the market, that often freezes up money. So that means that it's harder to get loans or to finance certain improvements. And so, knowing that, I can imagine the challenges that the folks that are marketing the property are having currently right now, as well as those who may go ahead and may decide to go ahead and extend their franchises into our area. So we're all watching and waiting, but that's kind of the quick update. Javier writes, is there going to be an elementary school opened in the Summerlee area? Alas, no. The city council, my predecessors on the city council, when they approved that project, it included a school site, and the school district was approached about putting a school there. And what happened was they started paying attention to the folks that were moving into those areas, and they noticed there were not a lot of children moving in. And so this is what the school district tells me. I have not seen the report, so I'm passing along the information that was provided to us as the justification. They declined to take the site, the school district did. And so the developer approached us about putting more homes there. And we said, well, no, we didn't want more homes there. So we ended up splitting the baby on that one, and that is the location of the expanded and secondary clubhouse and pool area that you guys enjoy over there. And on the back half of that, we allowed them to go ahead and build some more homes. So there's some people that are living there right now that are enjoying that area where the school site would have been, and that clubhouse there is there because it is what the developer committed to going ahead and making that deal. And that's just sometimes the way things work in life, right? Let's see here. Janet writes, how about the expansion of the 15 freeway? Please tell us our taxes are not paying for toll express lanes that cost us even more. I wish I could tell you that. Ramon, can you pull that one?
Sure.
I wish I could tell you that.
So, don't know if you were at the scoping meeting. The county RCTC held a scoping meeting actually right here in the city at Ortega High School on the 14th between 6 and 8 at night to go ahead and show the community some exhibits of what it would look like. And in reality, all it is just segment 2 of the express lanes that are currently under construction that go between Quejalco and State Route 60 in the north of the city. This segment that they're currently scoping right now will go ahead and connect Quejalco with express lanes down to Central. Obviously, this does touch city limits. Right now, that segment, they call it segment 2, is in the scoping phase or the environmental phase. To go ahead and obviously address any environmental issues and explore funding as well. RCTC is working very hard on securing funding in a number of ways. The resident asks if it will affect taxes. It won't have a direct impact on taxes. It may receive some funding from the taxes that are already in place, such as the gas tax that was recently passed, what's known as SB1, and that was a 12 cent that was passed in the last couple of years, so it may go ahead and receive some of the funding from that. Obviously, we try to also, whenever we do a large project like that, is, in addition to CEQA, the state environmental process, we also go after NEPA, that's a national environmental process, in order just to secure some federal funding where it's available. So that's the project. Overall, it's supposed to provide obviously an additional option to motorists to go ahead and utilize toll lanes. A lot of people sometimes question that and say, well, what does that do to people who can't afford it or only use general purpose lanes? And the short answer to that is, if others are provided the option of taking the express lanes, at least that frees up some volume of traffic. So even the people that use the general purpose lanes, their commute time and their life is also made a little bit easier.
So here's something. I think your concern is, and I think most of us have the concern, is that we pay these taxes, and then we pay even more taxes, And it seems like the reward for that, especially when it comes to freeway expansions, are toll lanes. And politically speaking, I couldn't agree with you more. It's very frustrating to see that as a mechanism. And I think that if you want the explanation that the state will provide to you, and this does not mean that I agree with it, but the state will tell you that, yes, you pay taxes and it helps us build the roads or the freeways, but what it doesn't help us do is maintain the roads and freeways, okay? There is nothing going towards that. And my argument would be, well, shoot, you got way fees, you have gas taxes, you have, vehicle registration fees that are some of the highest in the country. Gosh, it certainly sounds like there should be money for it. Where's the money going? Maybe we need an independent audit to go ahead and kind of figure out where all that gas tax money's gone over the years. But point is that yes, your taxes are being utilized to go ahead and help at least plan those roads. And yes, a portion of the gas tax monies that you're paying, especially the additional ones, are going to go towards constructing those roads. The revenues that come from the toll lanes help to finance and raise bonds to go ahead and help pay for the roads and maintain the roads afterwards. So, somebody's making money. So I don't know. I can answer that. I can give you that response because I'm an elected official. Ramon cannot. He's got to give you the official answer, and I appreciate. That's probably why we're a good team here, Ramon. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, very good. So we go to Suzette, who writes, "Hello. Could a traffic light please be put on Riverside Drive and Strickland?" Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Intersection of Riverside Drive and Strickland. Ooh, you're bringing up old stuff. I see so many accidents that on that curve, a traffic light would help. Do you know the history about this? Do you know? I think you came in after we actually got this one done. But,
yeah.
But do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So
do you know enough about it, or do you want me to go with it?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll fill in what I know.
City of Lake Elsinore, my predecessors, tried putting a street light there for a long time. It had been over a decade that they had been working on it because everybody knew that particular corner was very dangerous, and there were some improvements to the roadway and the curvature of the roadway at some point, and then there was an improvement actually to the intersection where you have Gunnarsson and Strickland, and then you have Highway 74, right? And so, couldn't agree with you more. City was willing to pay for the actual traffic signal, but you have to understand it's a state highway. So the state of California, Caltrans, controls all of that. There's some politics that are involved. I'm not going to get into all of that, but the bottom line is that you should know that the state's main purpose for having and maintaining highways is to convey traffic. Their goal is not to go ahead and provide any slowdowns or as few slowdowns as humanly possible for anything. Housing, getting people to side roads, to retail developments. If you've ever gone to the retail developments on Collier, you'll know that it's kind of tough to get in and out of those Target and Home Depot Center, and all of those centers are kind of hard to get into and out of. Specifically out of, because they're trying to constrict traffic and essentially go ahead and make sure traffic's flowing along the highway as much as humanly possible. That's not a great answer, but unfortunately, when we went ahead and took a look at that particular intersection, there wasn't enough traffic going from the side roads, both on Strickland as well as Gunnarsson, to go ahead and trigger what there's the manual of uniform traffic signals.
I'm UTCD.
Thank you. So the state actually has guidelines to go ahead and regulate the implementation of those traffic devices. So, and the good thing about that is that you don't have a bunch of different rules in a bunch of different cities and counties. And you don't have those cities that set like speed traps that to help supplement their budget, right? Because we've seen that too, where the speed limit will change from 45 to 15, and suddenly people are getting tickets like left and right. So there are some good parts of that, but the bottom line is that the city tried very hard to get a traffic signal there, and failed. And so what we did was we realigned Gunnarsson and Strickland and created a pocket lane to go ahead and turn left when you're going eastbound, and we improved the alignment just a little bit better so that it's not as bad, but it's still not good enough in my opinion. And I think as the traffic in those particular areas continues to increase, that you'll see that change, or you may also see it change once the city takes over that segment of Highway 74, which should happen in future years. So I hope that lends a little glimmer of hope while you're waiting for that one. Cynthia writes, been having problems with trash not being picked up on scheduled days and street sweeping not coming by on scheduled days here in Summerley. What can be done to assure that these city services are being completed? So we contract out both of those services to CR&R. We have the Alert LE app, which allows folks to go ahead and report a number of problems throughout the city. You can use it for this too. And if you alert our Public Works and our Code Enforcement Department of that with specifics like the name and street, our staff will go ahead and contact our CR&R representatives, and they will send guys back out to go ahead and do the street sweeping again, or they will have a trash truck come out and go ahead and make sure they get the job done. Those trash trucks, the street sweepers, they're driven by human beings, and sometimes human beings don't conduct themselves the way that they're supposed to, right? So it's a maintenance issue. But we need you to report it in order for us to know about it, because we don't have somebody following them around all day long to go ahead and make sure they're getting their job done. All right. Kevin Hawk. This is the second one, Kevin Hawk. He's asking good questions, man. There you go, Kevin. When will Camino del Norte open up? We kind of covered that one a little earlier, but you're looking at the end of the year. That's basically what you're looking at.
So there's 2 dates there, if I can jump
Sure.
in, Steve. There's the date of when the Franklin overpass will open up, and as we've discussed earlier, that will be the end of the year. Look for that entire segment of the road to open beginning of March.
Oh, really? Okay.
To be completed.
That's news to me. I'm learning something now.
Yeah,
we're talking about the end of the year all this time. What's going on here?
Little bit of rain is expected. So we were targeting sometime in February with the rain that we're expecting. That might slip a week or so. Late February, beginning of March is when the entire segment will be ready for use.
Mo's not used to my humor. Anyways, all right. Lori writes, how do we get the street sweepers to use water? All they do is stir up dust and leak fluid that stains the roads. Okay, so the street sweepers, there's 2 different types of street sweepers. There's one that actually goes ahead and goes through to kind of go do a light pickup and whatnot. Those are the ones that we use pretty regularly throughout the year. The other ones that we utilize are heavy duty guys that use a little bit more water, and those come through certain areas usually about once a year or twice per year. There's a management of expense that's involved, and also the operation of the lighter duty guys does more than you probably think it does. It really does take a lot of the dust off of the road, and you wouldn't notice it until they didn't show up for a while. Don't diss the light duty street sweepers. They are doing something, trust me. Julio Medieros writes, anything ever going to happen to Lakeland Village becoming part of Elsinore? It's totally neglected by the county of Riverside. So here's my take on this, okay? When you decide to move into the county, you think about counties. It's usually rural. It's usually, houses that are spread far apart, usually don't have much metropolitan areas. And when you start talking about suburbs are typically managed by cities, okay? So the confusion here is, for whatever reason, at some point, Lake Elsinore was allowed to incorporate, and it was only the portion of the lake that was on the east side, the area on the east side that incorporated. And in some way, somehow, the west side never did. And at some point, the folks that lived on the west side didn't want to be part of Elsinore. I grew up in Lake Elsinore. I can kind of understand this, a little bit. There was, we have a checkered history in terms of politics and certain decisions that were made. But I would never want to go ahead and say that the county is neglecting that area. The problem is that the counties, their job, their mission is not the same as the cities. So it is my opinion that it's long overdue that Lakeland Village actually become part of the city of Lake Elsinore. But at the same time, we've had elected officials that have gone out and tried to take that area down, and it's just usually totally rejected by the residents there. And so my tact is this: if the residents of Lakeland Village are interested in joining the city of Lake Elsinore and seeing their services expanded, we're ready to pull the horse and spend the money for the reports and the analysis necessary to go ahead and help along with that decision. But we're not going to impose it on the people of Lakeland Village. The people of Lakeland Village have to go ahead and make that decision that they want citywide services. And if they don't, then they don't. And they'll continue going along the way that they've gone along. There's a lot of people that live in Lakeland Village that kind of like the fact that they don't have the government, all over them. But you also go ahead and have the drawback in you have less in terms of street lights or paving or you got a lot of dirt roads out there and not a lot of sidewalks. There's no cohesive development in some respects. You don't have an economic development plan. You have restricted police access, if you would, too, because even though it's not densely populated, it's still treated like the county, so you still have to share services with an area that goes from all the way in Lakeland Village all the way to Blythe. So when you think about it that way, you're not being neglected. You just have a government oversight that stretches over a very, very large geographic area, and you're in kind of a cut-off pocket of the county, if you would. It's time for you guys to. It's not time for us to unify Elsinore, but I'm going to leave it to you guys to go ahead and show that initiative. Lori writes, what's the point in ticketing cars after the street sweeper has already come and gone on the street? Well, we're still kind of a small city, and for that reason, we're one of the cities that doesn't have kind of like a meter maid follow right behind the street sweepers. And for that reason, it's very difficult for us to be able to go ahead and get cars off the streets at the time that the street sweeper comes by, either before or after. And quite frankly, there's an argument, why should I have to move my car if there's no street sweeper there yet? You know what I mean? So that people want to leave their car there before, and then some people are like, the street sweeper already passed, and I should be able to park my car afterwards. And really what it boils down to is people don't want to move their cars on street sweeping day, right? I mean, that's really the bottom line. And we just don't have somebody that can go ahead and give tickets as the street sweeper is moving through the area. So the solution for us, and what many other cities do as well, is they actually just designate a time period on a day where the street sweeper aims to be, right? And you get a ticket typically in the morning, right? But you can get a ticket after the street sweeper's already come by, and those are the rules. That's the way we have it set up, and we'd like to change that maybe in the future as we go ahead and grow a little bit more. But again, we probably have other things that we probably dedicate our resources on before we went ahead and had that dedicated meter maid, following the street sweepers throughout the city. Lisa writes, what's the plan for the old Vaughn Center? What's the plan for the old Vaughn Center? Should bring a Winco there. Okay, so suggestion is a Winco. I think that's a great suggestion. So here's the thing, and we've gone out and discussed trying to go ahead and bring certain businesses here. Here's the problem. The problem is not Vaughn's being vacant, it's Walmart not having made a decisive move yet, okay? So there are some businesses that love to be next to a Walmart. They thrive next to Walmarts. They need to be next to Walmarts. And there's some businesses that die next to Walmarts. They just, quite frankly, are not well situated next to a Walmart because they're a direct competitor, and Walmart's everyday low prices, and so that doesn't match with their business model, and what the last thing they want to be is next to Walmart. As everyone knows, we have a Walmart Supercenter that's planned for along Central, across the way from Costco, right? And when that gets built, then that actually is going to be a transfer. It's not going to be a new Walmart. It's going to, the old Walmart will close down, and that store number actually is being transferred over to the new building. So that's part of the reason why we're one of the few Walmart projects that are still working in the state of California. I think we're the only one in the state of California that's still left. Once Walmart does that, or once Walmart doesn't do that, then you'll probably see some serious action happen on the Vaughn Center. And I'm going to imagine that the Vaughn Center is going to be demised into multiple sections and made something else. Winco could potentially go there, but believe it or not, Winco's footprint is usually smaller than a Vaughn's. So even then, you're still probably going to see a smaller footprint of that location, and I can imagine Winco doing quite well there. We're talking to lots of different retailers, obviously, and we're going to continue doing that, but no promises. I'm not certain exactly what's going to happen or when with respect to the project, but I can say that if Walmart does not break ground by February, I'm told, and Ramon can correct me if I'm wrong here, their permits expire and they cannot be extended, which means that's going to be that clear indicator that Walmart may not be moving or coming after all. They could always reapply and revitalize things. I think they're going to start building, but I'm done guessing because we've been waiting for years, and the only person that knows for sure is Walmart. So
one more piece on that: the existing Vaughn's location is actually where the new hook ramps are going in for the railroad interchange. So we're hoping that vitalizes that location, encourages people to go ahead and start making plans to move in there.
So it's kind of cool because if you've looked at the railroad interchange project, that northbound exit is going to come straight off on a grade. It's called a hook ramp, right? And what's going to be really kind of cool for that entire shopping center is that you're going to have all those people exiting the freeway. They can just continue straight and go shopping, which is, you don't have a lot of instances of that anywhere in California, quite frankly. And quite frankly, Caltrans tries to avoid doing that. And we kind of talked them into it. Point is that
they did push back.
They did push back. Tried very hard to go ahead and no, we won't do it. Point is that that should help with the marketing for the area. I can tell you that when I've talked to retailers about the opportunity there, eyes get real big. They're like, really? Oh, wow, that's pretty cool, because you're talking about thousands of visitors driving and taking a left-hand turn to avoid your entrance. It's pretty cool, I mean, that's like automatic business, So hopefully that helps move things along. Sandra writes, I recently located to Lake Elsinore, but I've noticed utilities are so expensive here, especially water and electricity. Is there a reason for that? Yes. Well, welcome to Lake Elsinore. First off, the electricity rates, I'm going to have to imagine are a lot like the electricity rates other places. And if you qualify for a certain income level, you can always go ahead and apply for things like CARE and whatnot. That'll help you with your electricity rates. The electricity rates are largely based on ongoing power rates that are regulated by the CPUC, and I would say that if you have high electricity expenses, it may be because we live in a warmer climate, and we probably run our air conditioning more often, and that's usually the big consumer of power. So that's as far as the electricity rates. The water rates are because we're in a very arid area. And our particular water district it has to purchase water, some of it coming from the Colorado River, a great portion of it coming from the Colorado River, and we don't see a lot of rain, and you have the water district that has to go ahead and make decisions on ways to go ahead and properly fund both quality water as well as maintaining the quantity of water that's coming. So consistent water availability is a challenge in some areas of the state, and I think that's the reason why you probably see some of the rates the way they are. You can always go ahead and reach out to your elected officials in that respect. There are directly elected directors to the Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District that you can go ahead and demand answers. Why are my water rates so high? But it's a good question. It's something that the city does not manage, but that would be my best explanation for you. Michelle Johnston, she writes, is it possible we can get more streetlights down Riverside Drive around Car Wash area and Jack in the Box? Really dark at night to see people cross the street. Yeah, we're aware of that. Ramon can talk about this one here. Why not?
Sure. So, obviously the way we go ahead and provide streetlights, a lot of them are conditioned on development and things like that. There is some feedback, like the mayor said, about that area further down in Diamond and other places. It is a major financial investment. It's difficult for the city to go ahead and provide just a project just to provide streetlights. Generally, these are conditioned on projects similar to Jack in the Box, or obviously the way to get many of these is the larger developments. So we're aware of that. there is some instances where the city might look at a location or something like that, but again, it's a big financial commitment, so it would obviously if a specific place that really needs it, we'll look at it, but generally speaking, just to kind of address this in general terms.
Now I have good news for it. I do have good news. The good news is that we have a new project, Circle K, to your point. Circle K is building right now, almost at that exact location that you're talking about. And so at Joy Street, you're going to get a traffic signal there, which, of course, we're always trying to go ahead and get something to go ahead and kind of moderate the traffic. There's going to be a crosswalk and there'll be additional lighting there. So that may address the issue, and hopefully in that specific instance, that will help. But I think what Ramon's talking about is just implementing streetlights all the way down. That's really tough to do without some sort of funding mechanism, and we're always looking for opportunities there too.
And the signal will provide safety lighting, so that'll provide good lighting for that particular area as well.
I agree. So, wish granted. Look at that. We're working well on Lake Elsinore Live here. All right. Do you happen to know when that project's moving through? Just as a question.
On the Circle K?
Yeah.
It's imminent. My understanding is they've started grading. So I mean, as far as completion, we don't have a date yet.
They'll be going vertical probably in the not too distant future. Yeah. Okay. So we'll pay attention to that. We'll get some information out there on this Facebook page when that starts going. Dana writes, when will the city open up the budget and have more animal control than one officer? Well, I don't know how many animal control officers that we have actually. I think we have one. Our budget with respect to animal control is largely dictated by the JPA that was formed between the 4 cities in the county as far as animal control goes. Gosh, that's a tough question because that's the first time I've ever had that question. When will the city open up the budget to add more? I don't know. I don't know when we'll be doing that, but something we can take a look at. Thanks for the suggestion. James Calvin, are we still getting a Miguel Juniors in Lake Elsinore? Of course we are. It's happening over there on Central, and I'm patiently waiting for them to build the building so I can go stuff my face there. I don't have a particular project start time, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be the last building that's built in in that shopping center with the Marshalls and the Panera and the Biology. But it should be mentioned that Biology did just open. They did so very quietly. They didn't have a ribbon cutting or nothing. You should check that out, definitely. Cynthia writes, how do residents get access to the fenced-off and locked baseball fields in the Summerlee Community Park? They are only available for Little League games. My kids want to enjoy city parks to the fullest extent. To check into that. This is a complaint that I've received previously. We'll have to go ahead and discuss that with our Public Works Department to see what's going on there. What else we got? Let's see. Okay, Paul's written. What's going to be done about all the tweakers in town? Tweakers? You've seen tweakers? You talk about having new businesses come in, but as soon as they pop up, tweakers are going to stand outside their doors begging for money and drive off with the new customers. Well, if you stop giving them money, then there wouldn't be tweakers begging for money anywhere. It just, drives down the value proposition to be standing out in front of a store trying to collect money and not get a penny, right? So first things first. I'm saying that jokingly, but first things first. We try to encourage our residents not to give to panhandlers, okay? It's very important. When you give to panhandlers, you're encouraging the behavior, and quite frankly, you're not fixing the problem. Quite often, what you're doing is you're actually enabling the behavior, number one. But number two, most people are worried about folks starving or not having a way of getting off of their feet. And the bottom line is there's plenty of opportunities to go ahead and get food and shelter if you just know where to look. And most of these folks know where to look. I remember I was having a conversation with one person who appeared homeless and told him, hey, I'm ready to help you get off the street right this second. And the guy's like, great, I can use a couple of bucks to go ahead and help me get off the street. And I'm like, no, I'm not offering you money. He says, I'm going to help you get off the street. We're going to get you in a program. Oh, no. I don't want to get involved with the program, right? And here's the challenge. The challenge is that if they're not breaking the law, you can't violate somebody's civil liberties and, take away their freedom, right? So, the bottom line is that I know this person has an issue. I know homelessness is bad for their health. I know that it's bad for the health of the public in general. But the way that the laws in the state are written right now, quite frankly, we can't do much about those that are not conducting themselves in an illegal manner. But what we can do is we can inform our residents, and we can go ahead and let you know that we have resources available to help these folks. So when they're out there panhandling, acting like they're having hard times, they're down on their luck, there might be a handful of guys that actually do that, but the ones that really want the help, that are ready to get off the street, they're not out there panhandling. They're calling around. They're asking their friends for a place to stay. They're looking for resources in some way, shape, or form. They might even be visiting a shelter because they're serious about getting off the streets. The folks that are on the streets, that are kind of existing there and sitting and trying to go ahead and thrive on the streets practically, those folks, you need to almost go ahead and force them to seek those resources through an organization that has training and the experience to go ahead and A, put them in the right type of assistance program, and B, kind of give them a little tough love, you know what I mean? You want help off the streets, great. You want food, great. You want money, great. So we can help you with all of that. But you got to get into this program. You got to get clean. You have to go ahead and get, into job training. You have to go ahead and begin conducting yourself like a normal member of society. Yeah.
The fire pits, they're all gone, you said.
The fire pits, going back to fire pits. I didn't see that here.
Sorry.
They're all gone. I guess I'll just have to look into that. What's going on with the fire pits? Do you know? I don't know what's going on with the fire pits. It says nobody told me this. Nobody consulted with me. I don't know what's going on. No, typically we go ahead and remove the fire pits during some part of the season, I think it's just off season right now. So.
Follow-up question: what do you do if you want to have Lakeland Village go into the city? Who do they contact?
So there's some requirements that, with regards to petitions, there's a formal process to actually submit to LAFCO.
Repeat my question.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. You're right. You did not hear our illustrious staff member, Nicole Daly, who's helping us go ahead and run this. She hates to be in front of the camera. The question that was asked that is apparently not being shown on my screen here is what do people have to do in order to go and become part of Lake Elsinore? There is a petitioning process that is required. A certain percentage of the people that live in Lakeland Village have to go ahead and sign a petition for there to be a formal review process. Typically, the city will go ahead and pay for that, the reports that are necessary to go ahead and see if there's economic viability with the annexation of that area. We have to be able to describe how we're going to provide police services and medical services and all these things, right? And so then that process goes to an organization called LAFCO. It's the Land Agency Formation. I forget the name of I forget the whole name of the organization. Point is that it goes through that organization. That organization then either approves or denies or says we'll accept your annexation bid if you annex this area. Maybe it's a bigger area, or maybe it's a smaller area. There's a lot of things that can happen. Then it'll go to a vote of people that are in that area, and then a determination is made by the voters. And it'll just be the folks that are affected by the change, and then there's an incorporation of the area. I think that's the entire process. I'm not an expert in that particular area, but I think that pretty well describes the process. But the first, you can actually go ahead and do a search and look up LAFCO and annexations, LAFCO, and then be able to go ahead and learn a little bit more about it. That's where I picked up some of the information from. Is that good? Is this? So I'm getting this, right? I don't know what this means. I thought it was like stretch the answer maybe or something like that. Like we need more filler time, or maybe that we don't have the question up. But this means on to the next question. Okay. No, it means wrap it up. I got one more question here, but let's do the one more question. How can we make skydiving a bigger part of the city? We'd love to entertain the community and highlight some of the iconic history of the city. Great question. I recently jumped out of a perfectly good airplane and videotaped the whole thing for the entertainment of you, the viewer. Part of that was to go ahead and kind of promote Skydive Elsinore. Skydive Elsinore is looking at a number of great things to go ahead and expand the offerings that they have there. One of the big things that they'd like to bring is a kind of a food vending thing. They'd like to copy what we're doing over at Launch Point. And I think that's a great idea because you get people that are there that come from all over the world and actually do a really good job of entertaining those folks. Now, you may not know this, but the Skydive Elsinore is known throughout the entire world. We're known as the Blue Hole, and we're called the Blue Hole because there's not a lot of rain that comes here. So people know that they can book their travel here, even during the winter time, and very often be able to go ahead and do all the skydiving they want. That's something that, perfectly sane people do. Point is that we do what we can to go ahead and promote the business. We can't dedicate a lot of resources towards that because obviously we're a city and not an advertising agency. Okay, that's it. So it's 7:04. So that's it. That's all we have for tonight. We're happy to go ahead and continue answering questions as we can. If you'd like to go ahead and continue posting those. Hope you've enjoyed the evening. Ramon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor, and I hope we've answered as many questions as possible. And if you still have any questions, please go ahead and call or post questions, and we'll begin to those when we can.
All right, great. Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight.